G'day and welcome again to another Campfire Project discussion. Today I have with me Ron Bucton, who is a husband and a father of two daughters, as well as being a self-professed health and fitness fanatic. And after holding a senior position as a national architect in a national architect practice for many years, Rod fell chronically ill with Lyme-Like disease, and his life changed dramatically overnight. He's now recovered from the Lyme-Like disease and has taken his passion to helping other people live a much more healthier life. Welcome to the Campfire, Rod.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alan. It's great to be here, and thanks for the invitation to come and have a chat. Really appreciate it.
Well, we've been chatting through the, of all places, the E-Women's Network, and that we're both members of, and been chatting there. And you're telling me the work that you're doing, but the fact that you had been through a chronically ill illness and then have come back from that. Now, Lyme-Like disease. Can you explain a bit more about that? Because I know about Lyme disease overseas, but what's Lyme-Like disease?
Yeah, well, certainly there's a lot of grey in Australia in particular about Lyme-Like disease, and they haven't been able to specifically identify that we have the bacteria in ticks. Lyme disease is from a bite from a bacteria from a particular tick. It's in Europe, it's in the USA, but they haven't been able to pinpoint it exactly here in Australia, and hence it has the very broad term of a Lyme-like illness. The symptoms, the treatment process, the testing process is all very, very similar to other continents, just a little bit different, and it's taking a little bit longer to get through that hurdle of really pinpointing the name here in Australia.
Yeah, that sort of makes it a little bit difficult then to explain to people when it's like, but it's not recognised as something else. But as far as the conditions go that you went through, no difference.
No difference whatsoever. It's horrendous. It really is. And my journey with Lyme-like illness started back in March 2012. I was in every other weekend as it was. Felt a little bit ill. Went to work on Monday. Felt okay. Didn't feel great. Then the following day, the Tuesday, it all went to custard really quick, and I was told I didn't look all that well. Went home and wasn't able to go back to work in that particular role as an architect for many, many years, and went through months and months of testing for a whole range of different neurological, physical, whole range of testing processes to understand what it was. Finally, my test result for Lyme was through a pathology centre in the USA. The testing protocol here in Australia at that time wasn't adequate enough to identify the exact cause of my illness. As I said, my positive result came out of the USA, and we were then able to target and start to treat the actual illness, as opposed to a myriad of other things, in which I'm sure every doctor I went to, and I had my wife was an accountant, and she had a 3-page spreadsheet of doctors, specialists that we'd been seeing over an 18-month period, just trying to keep a tally, because every doctor wanted to know, okay, can you tell us your story? No worries, we'll tell you our story, but here's the spreadsheet, here's the documentation, here's the treatment process, our efforts to try to work through all that and achieve an outcome. And as I said, it wasn't until we had the exact diagnosis we could start the treatment and then enroll from there. So it started an enormous turnaround in my life.
Yeah, so as you say, you weren't able to work. Give us an idea of what was the downturn? How did your body react to all this, and how bad was it for you?
Yeah, certainly. So I was holding a senior position as an architect in a firm. We had 65 staff at the time, so life was motoring along pretty well. We living the corporate life, and we were stupid busy. I look back now, and my life was crazy. It was a 60, 80-hour week, back to back. That's just how it was. Fell ill, as I said, overnight. There was probably a few signs that were starting to creep in hindsight when I look back, and there's a bit more fatigue and a bit more a few things that were happening that weren't my norm, as I said, in hindsight. And then when the illness hit me, it was like I had a hangover. And a lot of people with Lyme disease suffer a lot of muscular pain and discomfort. I had an element of muscular discomfort, but it was like a hangover that just never went away. I had constant migraines. I had a lot of nausea. I could never sleep enough and wake refreshed. I was always very, very flat. I've always been reasonably active. I struggled to walk to the end of the street during these times, and so it was a marked turnaround. And seeing what it did to myself was one thing, but the effect it had on my family, my immediate and my broader family and friends, was that was probably one of the toughest things for myself. Seeing my wife and my two daughters, who were quite young at the time. My daughters would have been probably 4 and 6 at the time, and seeing them, really upset with just how I looked physically, and not I'm a glass half full kind of guy. It was a world that I suffered with a lot physically, and the illness brought around a lot of mental illness and depression that I'm very fortunate to not have suffered at all up until this point, but just being so ill for so long and unable to work, unable to socialise. I couldn't drive a car. I couldn't leave the home except for doctor's appointments, and if I had some family and friends to take me somewhere, was a pretty dark time in my life. Yeah.
And so, how long did this go on for?
Yeah, so it went on for about 18 months of illness. My condition deteriorated continually over this period until we had the diagnosis. As I said, I got a positive result from a pathology centre out of the US, and then we were able to start treatment. And my treatment was via one of the very few doctors that were treating Lyme disease, or Lyme-Like disease, in New South Wales at the time, in North Coast, New South Wales. And that treatment was intravenous antibiotics, and that was via a PICC line. So for those that don't know, it's a tube that goes in through your arm, runs down through, it sits in the top of your heart. And because of the controversy associated with the disease and the treatment, I wasn't able to find or get anyone at a local hospital or a medical centre to come assist me with my medication or my antibiotics. So I had to do all my own injections. I had a 3-day on, 4-day off process in which I had to do, as I said, my own injections twice a day for 3 days. I had to flush the PICC line with the saline solution every 6 hours to keep it alive. And on the off days, I had to continue the flushing, and that was an ongoing process that I went through for around 4 months.
Yeah, so that's, I can imagine not only the physical debilitation that goes with that, but the emotional pressures and everything else, and the fatigue that goes all together with it all.
Yeah, it was, as I said, it was a time I'd never experienced anything like this in my life, and I understand it. The treatment and how our bodies react is quite similar to treatment for cancer and that type of thing as well. The stress that was associated with the whole process of having to inject myself also. I had a little table set up in my wife's and my bedroom, which had all the sterilising gear and all the syringes and all these things, which it just became my norm. But it's so not normal to what our typical days are. I had a period also where, due to no fault of anyone's, the PICC line blocked. The PICC line has 2 small tubes that make up the system. One of my lines blocked, and so as a result, when that happens, my treating doctor suggested get yourself straight to an emergency department to get it sorted, to get it flushed. Otherwise, you can then force that blockage back into your system, can cause blood clots throughout your body. So I went to my local hospital, emergency department, local hospital at the time in Newcastle when we were living there, and the head of the emergency department looked at a little card that I had to carry around with me just to identify what it was and why I had it and all the ins and outs. And I'll never remember. He took that card, he threw it on the bed, and he basically abused me for taking on this type of treatment. I don't have Lyme. It doesn't exist in Australia, and I was thrown out of the emergency department. And that, for my wife and I, at that point in time, there was a lot of stuff going on. I was as sick as a dog. I had some people in a medical centre think I was being treated for cancer at the time. I looked very, very, very ill. And this, to add to it, when you've been thrown out of an emergency department who refused to treat you, you're at a pretty low point in your life. So we went from there to another emergency department. By that point, the second line had blocked because too much time had passed. So the PICC line had to be removed, and we had to start all over again. So I was back to my local treating doctor, back to the X-ray department there. They put another PICC line in, and in the interim of that period, I had to then revert back to antibiotic treatment via just standard needles, just being injected into my arms until the PICC line was placed back in again. And I was going through so many injections at that point in time, and again, another time in my life I'll never forget. All the arteries shut down in my arms from so many injections over such a short period, and then the doctors and nurses had to start injecting me into my feet just to make sure I got the antibiotics into my system in the right timing protocol to keep it all rolling. And I remember just walking out of that appointment back out to my car, and I just started crying uncontrollably. I was physically in pain. I felt sick. I hadn't felt well was probably coming on to 2 years by then. And mentally I was almost broken. I couldn't bear to keep going with all this stuff. Picked myself up and thought I didn't have any other option. I had a beautiful wife, lovely young girls who are only kids, and I got a lot of life to spend with them yet. So I thought I've got to keep going. I've got to get through this to get out the other side for them, if nothing else, and push through. Over time, we got to the end of that treatment with the antibiotics, got out of there, started to oral antibiotics and supplements, changed doctors, and things started to lift. There was a change. I could feel I wasn't as ill for as long, and I had periods that I'd wake up and things weren't as grey. It wasn't as dull. I wasn't as sick, and I thought there is a change here. There's definitely something happening here. Let's go. Let's grab this by both hands and make it something.
Yeah, so in that, if we jump forward, you're doing coaching with people about stress, health, all the other areas. So obviously, from having been so sick and what you learnt from there and looking at possibilities and things, is that, what's brought you through to the coaching that you're doing today?
Yeah, you're spot on. You hit the nail on the head there. So one of the doctors that I was being treated by, working through with a whole range of supplements and oral antibiotics, suggested I started a low inflammation diet and just rethink a whole range of things. And so to me at the time was a bit of gobbledygook. I researched and I started to question a lot of things. As I mentioned, I've been through dozens of doctors to get to that point, and my wife and I become quite skeptical of just where we were going with this whole thing. We wanted to make sure that we put our best foot forward every single time, and what we were doing was going to help and not just be another script and another something. So we read a lot about it, did our own research, and thought, okay, this in conjunction with our new medical approach, it had some research behind it. There was some evidence there to support it. So I got into that. That together with green vegetable juicing became my new norm. I worked through all that, and I could see that this started a massive turnaround with my life, with how I felt, with my body, my body being able to fight and rebuild itself together with the antibiotics and the supplements. But there was a marked change over the next 6 months, and I thought there's something here, that the whole idea that food is medicine, it really started to resonate with me. And so I got through all my oral antibiotics, and I was at a point where I was only on supplements, and I continued to build, and I continued to feel well for longer periods. I got back to some light exercise, some body weight exercise, and there was a marked turnaround. And then at that point, I could see, reflecting on the previous 12 months, that this is something that I need to share with people. This is it's quite a different life and lifestyle that I'd lived before. And as I said, I'd always had an interest in my own health and fitness. I'd done a bit of triathlon in the past, and I thought I ate a healthy diet in years gone by before I fell ill. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't looking after myself. I know I was living a highly stressed life in a corporate world, and now it was time to change all that and start to share some of my new knowledge with others. I've restudied again. I studied through a group out of the US who are at the forefront of a lot of research into ancestral living and the lifestyle in which it's believed that our ancestors lived hundreds of thousands of millions of years ago, and they thrived on that. And I then started to test and experiment on myself, and things turned around, went from strength to strength. And I thought that there is something really here. And I got to the point, got off supplements, and I thought this is really something. This is special. Okay, what can I do to help other people share in my new wisdom, my new life as well?
Yeah, it's lucky that it comes down to the choices we make when we're going through stuff. The fact that you had a wife who was so involved in helping you through and find solutions is a real advantage. But having gone through that and having had that understanding of what you learned along the way, while you're working on that, that would have given you a lot more strength than just waiting for somebody else to do it for you.
That's exactly right. You're spot on. My wife was unbelievable throughout our entire marriage since I've known her. But in a time of illness, everyone, good friends rally around you, good family rally around you, and other people you may not hear as much of, and that's the way it rolls. But my wife was incredible. She questioned, she researched, she supported me in every way. And at my darkest time, and I mentioned the time where I was having injections through my feet, and in the lead up to that, my illness got worse and worse. And I thought I virtually resigned myself to having quite a short life. I didn't think I was going to live for much longer. But my wife, in retrospect now, she knew I would never die. She knew we would find the answer. We just had to find the right answer, the right person to treat us, and to treat me, I should say. And it was incredible. And all the harebrained ideas we stumbled across, she supported me through and through. My low inflammation diet, that turned my eating pattern on its head, and she changed as well her approach to support that and help me and do whatever she could. And then, as you alluded to, off the back of all that stuff that I learned, and then being able to build on that, test it on myself, and come out fitter, leaner, stronger than what I've ever been in my life. Even thinking back to high school days, I've never felt this good in my life, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
That's good. So all of that, and this is one thing most of us don't realise, is we first focus on the negative side of things. That's what we're going to get. But if we then decide, right, and sometimes it needs to have somebody around us to get us out of that lull where we're locked in, to get us thinking differently. But once we do, we start looking at possibilities and what could be on the other side of the door if we open the door and go through.
Yes. So
with that, and then being able to bring that, now you're using that knowledge and teaching others.
Yes,
training others.
That's exactly right. And everything that I coach, I've tested on myself. I don't coach anything that I don't live myself every day, day in, day out. That in line with my new training, my new study that I've done, and it's transforming lives, the lives of people who they thought were at a point where there was no turning back. I've had a local medical centre start to refer pre-diabetic patients to me. A lot of people that were living a life as I used to, and a corporate life, business owners or business managers who are living a high stress life. They put all their energy into their business, and that's thriving. doing the best to balance that with family life, and then their own health has really suffered, and it's taken a bit of a wake up, a tap on the shoulder from a partner, husband or wife, a good mate, or a doctor to say, look, you need to start to look after yourself and make a few changes. Otherwise, your foreseeable future is not all that great. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see a lot of, been through similar sort of things myself. You push yourself really hard. You think you're achieving, you're getting all this stuff, and it's always from outside of you for everybody else, and not for you, not internal. And the end result is that while you're doing all of that, you're pushing yourself really thin, and you start to get ill, and you go, "Why me?" And we go into that pity at first, going, "What have I done wrong?" Well, we didn't look after ourselves was the main thing that we needed to do. But then knowing that, if we get into that sick state, you can get locked into that, and it takes a catalyst then of somebody to give you that tweak. Hey, there's an alternative here.
Yes.
But the fact that you've now lived all of that, you've got all of those alternative results. So if somebody's going through this and going, well, my life is stuffed, I've got nowhere else to go but downhill, you can go, well, you can turn on a different path that is going back uphill to health.
Yes, no, that's exactly right. And my illness, as I said, was all from Lyme disease. It was from the bite of a tick. And I grew up on a farm here on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, and ticks were just a normal day of life. That was just day in, day out. In Newcastle, where I lived, different story on the day. And I know the day, I know the particular time I was bitten by a tick. Got back to my car, saw there was a tick there, went home, showed my wife, showed my kids. They hadn't seen a tick before, all those things. A few months later, my wheels fell off. I got ill from Lyme disease, from a tick bite, as I said. It could have been chronic fatigue. It could have been stress. It could have been burnout of some sort. I was certainly on that path that it could have been a number of other things. It rolled in my way for Lyme, but it could have been, as I said, it could have been burnout in a couple of years after, no doubt.
Yeah, but it's quite an extreme show and tell. Hey, sweetie, and kids, look at this. This is a tick.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. And at the time, it was just, that looks a bit sick. That looks a bit awful. That and little young girls at the time living a city life, that was weren't used to that. And then, but they all saw how it rolled out for years later, and it's changed my whole family's world in a massive way, but in a much better way. We live a very different life now than what we used to, and we've been forced in another direction. But we're far closer. As I said, we have a different view on many aspects of life now.
Yeah, when somebody gets sick, it affects all the loved ones, and it does bring people together. And being able to then turn that around into a positive is quite a huge thing.
Yes, certainly. No, it's a real journey, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But to have lived it now and out the other side, and now helping people, it's the greatest thing. It's a real passion, and I love doing it. I love every day of what I do, Alan. Yeah.
And that's, as you said, was the main thing. It's that experience of having been through something and then being able to teach other people about that. You can't really teach them from textbooks because, well, as far as Lyme disease goes in Australia, we had that one doctor who said it was a load of rubbish.
Yes. Yep.
By the way, is he still practicing?
I don't know. I've steered clear of that hospital since. It for some reason it's got a little bit of a stigma in the back of my mind about going back there. So I detour around that one. Yeah. But you're right. Having lived the illness and also having lived a corporate life in the past, I understand HR issues. I understand project delivery issues in construction. I understand IT issues, running a business, networking, building a business, looking for clients, all those things. I get that. And then being able to mesh that in with a new approach to a healthy lifestyle, which is what I coach, it is achievable, and it's not rocket science. It's not some mumbo jumbo. It's not processed anything or packaged food or anything like that. It's just getting back to the core of the way in which research has shown our bodies have adapted to perform at their peak and have done for millions of years. Yeah.
Yeah. As I say, you take so much care in running your business, looking after your vehicles and other things, and then we forget the one that's going to hold everything together we're not looking at, which is back to ourselves.
Yes,
So,
yep. No, that is so true, and it's and it takes something, and we hear all these things, and we hear the murmurs in the background, and we might hear a mate that you know, the doctors might have put him on a medication or something like that. And you hear all these things, and I'm probably guilty of it in years gone by. It won't happen to me. It won't happen to me. I look after myself. I exercise and I eat healthy. Well, I used to think I ate healthy, and I used to think I exercise well, and I don't go anywhere near that sort of exercise, that intensity of exercise, that high stress lifestyle, and also the nutrition. Nutrition has a massive part to play in our health and well-being, and a lot of the things that I coach challenge conventional wisdom on a lot of fronts, as far as what is or what may be good for big business or pharmaceutical companies may not be the best for our own health and wellness.
Yeah, it's a little bit extreme to have to go down with some illness and that, to have compassion for ourselves first of all, but also compassion for other people. Sometimes it needs something like that to get out of our complacency.
No, that's exactly right, Alan. And to do it like I did, it turned my world upside down, my family upside down, and it certainly gave me a lot of time, because I had nothing else. I had a lot of time on my own at home when my wife was still working 2 jobs, my kids were still going to school and preschool, all those things. So as I said, my wife did an amazing job of just keeping our family going and keeping our unit together, and keeping it all ticking over. And the time that I had at home, just to think and reflect on what my past life was, and if I was to make it through, what my new life would have been. And that's me today. And it's it's looking pretty cool, Alan. Yeah.
So what's your wife's name?
My wife is Shani. Yeah.
So Shani's absolutely sounds like quite an impressive person. You're very lucky there with having her as well. One thing that we don't talk about when we talk about this stuff is, okay, you've got 2 daughters. What was the impact on them?
Yeah, it was enormous. As I said, they were very young, and they went through a time, and my youngest daughter, she spent most of her primary school years with her father at home, not working, going to doctor's appointments, looking ill, being ill, taking a lot of tablets. I think at a time, there was a time there I was taking up to 35 tablets a day. It's not the normal of an Australian family, Australian working family, 2 parents working, start your day, go off to work, come home, have dinner, go to bed, that sort of thing. It was anything but normal. And I remember a time, again, playing a board game with my youngest daughter, and it was the time in which I had the pick line problems that started around, and I was sitting on the floor playing this board game with my daughter. I had a long sleeve top on. My daughter said, "What's that on your arm, Dad?" I looked down, and it was just blood coming out of the end of my pick line that was just sort of running down my sleeve. And those sort of things, they're horrifying things for a child to see. And I think my girls often bring up, little small things that happened back then, and our lives back then were very different to what they are now, as far as just being active, getting out and doing stuff. We spent a lot of time together inside, because I wasn't able to get outside to do much. We played a bit of Lego. We played a lot of board games. We did stuff in and around when I could get up and do stuff. And so all in all, they were really special times, being that I wasn't all that a nice person to be around, but we made the most of what we could at the time. And
because that's the one thing I always think about, is when the kids because the kids are observant of everything, there's not much that they miss at all, and then they have their emotional impact, and they're not of that enough ability to be able to translate back to us, to let us understand what they're going through. So being able to prepare a child for what's happening in the moment and what could happen into the future, is extremely difficult. So
Yeah.
that would have been a tough time on that side for you.
Yeah, it certainly was, and together for Shani as well. I remember times where she was crying at times a lot because of where we're at and where we're going, and as I said, it made my daughters upset. I'll never forget times where all three of them are quite upset with the whole situation, where our family was at. I looked really, really crook, and things were all going to custard, and a lot of stuff that we worked through. We talked about a lot of stuff. My daughters spent hours just sitting in doctors' waiting rooms, just waiting for appointments, waiting for follow-up appointments, waiting for doctors that were running late, and and they just kept backing up. They were there. They knew that there was things going on that they couldn't understand what it was. They knew I was sick, no doubt about it. But they just amazing kids, really are. They just roll with it, and I think we put our energy into our kids whenever we can, and they certainly did what they could to prop us up along the way. So yeah.
Yeah, when you just tell me a little bit of the tough time back there, I could feel myself smiling. If anybody they'll probably see my face actually did smile, because I was actually thinking of the family, the strength that's come out of that, the closeness, and the strength of your family unit now.
No, that's exactly right, and it carries through now, and we have a wonderful family. We have a very open relationship with what we talk about at the dinner table. We all sit at the dinner table for a meal every night. We talk about stuff. We talk about school. Both my girls are in high school now, and we have my grandfather, who's having his 99th birthday this year. He attends a lot of family functions with us, and his hearing's not all that good. But I see him at the dinner table when he joins us for a meal or a family get together. He just sits. He doesn't say a lot, but he just listens, and he just takes it all in. And when I can, I call in to see him, and we have a chat, and it's just him and I. And he opens up a lot about his life and what he's done, where he's at, and where he's going. And he'll often say about our family, and we don't have the normal family. We do things very openly. We talk openly about a lot of stuff, about things that are going on at school, and boys, and the internet, and stuff on the news. My daughters have an awareness of current affairs that I don't think I ever had at their age, just because it's there and it's happening. And we talk about the ins and outs of the stock market and what's happening. And Corona is all around us at the moment. We spoke briefly when we got on the line before we started the chat, Alan, and we talk about all these things in and around. So they have a real awareness, which I think my grandfather alludes to, that his generation was, he mentioned it the other day, it was be seen and not heard. And they had a presence in the family where the children weren't spoken to, and I don't, from what I understand, I don't think they were included in conversations or were discussed many things at all.
Not much in my day either.
Certainly. So, and he said he can see a marked difference between his upbringing and ours, and he thinks it's all for the better. So I think that stems from our time together during my illness. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think having conversations with him and other people at those ages, the knowledge that we can get from them, not only what they lived through and that, but what they've realised about the changing times, is coming with a lot more validity than some of the stuff that's coming out today. People are, should be doing this, we should be, because every 5 minutes what we should be doing is changing.
Yes.
And so having that wisdom and having talking to them, but for your daughters to have that awareness now, it's got to be making them two very strong young women as they're growing up.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and my grandfather often refers to, he feels like he's born in the wrong generation, because the kids have got their iPads out, they're showing him all this stuff, and my grandfather, to his credit, he has a quite a basic smartphone. He sends text messages. He does the stuff that he can do. My daughters teach him how to use his phone, how to take photos on his phone, and it's a it's a wonderful thing, that interaction between my daughters and their great grandfather, and and all the things that come off it. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. And you mentioned that it's not the normal family and that, but wouldn't it be wonderful if more families were like this? We had these conversations with our kids.
Yeah, it certainly would, and we think that's normal. We think this is the normal, but it's not until others, such as my grandfather, tweak on these things, or my kids might spend some time with other people, and they'll come home and say, well, this happened and this happened, and I think that awareness also is important for them to show them that there isn't a real normal. It's just what we do, what we think is a good way to raise a family, to be open about all the stuff that's going on in our lives, good and not so good. Talk about it, talk through it, and what we can do to work through to the next day. So it's
So tip is to create your own normal.
Yes, you bet. Yeah.
Excellent. So how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Alan. I've got a website, and my coaching's name is Sports Adventure. My website, the domain sportsadventure.com.au. Jump on. I've got a blog there that I post weekly. I've got some social media through Facebook. I've got a YouTube channel, LinkedIn, all those things. So all that, the socials are there as well. I do a weekly Facebook Live on Thursday morning. I'm posting regularly to Facebook, and also I do a Rod's Weekend Adventure every Saturday morning. I post a video, and that's the side of me. It's the play side. It's the side that I'm helping a lot of my corporate clients with, and it's reconnecting with the outdoors. It's getting out and having fun again. And as I alluded to before, a number of people coming to me focus on their business, their family, then themselves, and any time that they've had for themselves has gone by the wayside. So I'm coaching one gentleman at the moment. We've done a bit of mountain biking. We've done a bit of stand-up paddleboarding, and these are bucket list items that he mentioned to me some time ago. I wanted to do this and this. It's on my bucket list, and I could see at the time that it was one of those comments. I'd love to do it, may not get to, but I'd love to have a crack. And I've helped make all those things come true. And to see the expression on these people's faces when I say, well, our coaching is going to be a little bit different this week. Instead of catching up at someone's house or at a cafe or at their office, I say, we're going to meet at the boat ramp this week. And, okay, all right. We'll meet at the boat ramp, and I'll turn up with stand-up paddle boards and all the paddles and all the gear. And we just head off across the channel, and it is the most wonderful thing to make this stuff happen. And bring back the fun. Bring back get outside, enjoy some of the good and the not so good. Enjoy some of the mud and the water and the sun, the rain, the wind, all that cool stuff that we lose touch with. Sometimes it's not easy for us if we're living in cities, in town, but often there's ways we can get around it. Even get down to the local park or whatever, and just play, just have fun, do something that we is outside our norm. Not doing anything silly that's going to cause danger or harm, but just have fun.
And it's so important, because I get people who talk to me and say, but I'm worn out, I'm run down. I go, what do you do? I help people. And I go, well, what do you do? And I get, they might work at a charity, for instance. And I give all my time to the charity, and I go, right, do you really love people? Well, that's why I give all my time to the charity. And what are you feeling at the moment? I feel run down. So when did you decide you wanted to rob the people that you're helping? And they go, what are you talking about? I go, you're not giving your best. You're giving this run down version and thinking that you're doing a lot of great good. Why don't you take some time to be selfish for a little moment so you can be selfless? So get your energy back up, and then go back and help out again. But go back with a completely different attitude, with a smile on your face, so those people see the smile instead of the tiredness and everything in you. So that they can then connect with that happiness as opposed to the tiredness.
Yeah, no, that is so important, so important. And I know a number of people that put a lot of their energy into helping others, but they burn themselves out in doing so. And you're right, you're not presenting your best self. And we alluded to this before. If you go down, that has a whole flow-on effect for
Everything goes down
your
with
family, your business, and it all goes to custard. So yeah, super
love
important.
that term, goes to custard. But
Yeah.
yeah, you've got to look after yourself. But I realised if I ever got a call from you to meet you down at the boat ramp, make sure I got my board shorts with me.
You betcha, yeah. And if it's not a boat ramp, it might be at the local mountain bike park, or you never know what I might throw on you, Alan. So stand by, yeah.
So bring at least a pair of shorts, board shorts or whatever, a pair of sneakers or whatever, and be ready for it.
Exactly right. Yes, yeah. Because there's some great mountain bike parks in Newcastle. I've ridden all of them many times. So yeah, it could be on our radar, Alan. Yeah.
Sounds like a definite way to go. Well, thanks very much for being here today, Rod, and to explain all of this to people, because it's not just what you went through and then how you responded, but how your wife got involved in that, but also the impact it has on your kids. And I wanted people to know that you can bring the whole family together when things go the wrong way, once you've got the right attitude to do just that.
Yeah, certainly. No, thank you very much, and thanks for your time again and the invitation to have a chat, Alan. I really appreciate it. And you're doing a wonderful thing here on the Campfire Project. I couldn't speak more highly of it. So well done to you.
Well, the thing is, I get to talk to everybody else, so I'm just a greedy sod. So I'm looking after me. So there you go. It's a lesson for everybody. Go out and look after yourselves.
You bet.
But, for the others that have been here, they're listening in, thanks very much for being here. And remember, the chats on the Campfire Project are open to all of you to come in, tell your story, but they're also there to listen to them as well. Listen to people like Rod and others and go, okay, is that somebody that you can connect with, that just having a chat with them, getting some ideas, or even talking about their services, and that do that, because otherwise you're missing great opportunities. And if you want to come on and tell your story, love to have you, because as you notice, I enjoy this every time I have a chat with somebody. And thanks again, Rod, for making it a real pleasurable one again for me today.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thanks for the invite, and have a great day, Al. Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you later on, and goodbye to everybody else. Bye.